hello, and good evening to MB Studios, Twitch.tv, and the world and the universe, and other Dave Thomas in the chat. Hello, good evening. It's Monday night. It's 7 p.m. My name is Misinformation, and I'm your host right here on That Sounds Right. That was That Sounds Right. That's the name of this show. We are about to dive into a trivia show where it doesn't matter who's right. It only matters who sounds right. And tonight we have three contestants that are bound to sound right at some point or another. We have Whitney. Hello, Whitney.
Hello, Kayleigh. Oh, I'm sorry. Misinformation.
Oh, thank you so much for calling me by my true hosting title, Misinformation. Whitney, are you feeling confident tonight? Are you ready for this competition?
I've never been more confident in my life.
Wow. Whitney, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm intimidated to hear that. And I'm also excited to welcome another competitor, Chris. Chris, good evening. Happy Monday.
Hey, happy Monday.
Chris, you're back. And may I say, you're looking ready for action.
I am. I have my special glasses on, which means I am at least 2 points smarter.
Yeah, I can see that. It's definitely showing, and it definitely will help you sound smarter in this competition, which of course is the only thing that matters here. We also have Tina on the show. Tina, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Misinformation. We meet again.
Tina, I must say, you look incredibly prepared.
Well, you know, I did an entire PhD just to get this funny hat, and then I didn't get to graduate because of COVID. So I figure I better wear it for this show, you know, get my money's worth.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great idea, Tina. It's a great strategy here on this game. Now, we have one more person with us tonight. And of course, I have to welcome him back. Will actually is the backbone of this show. And Will, I've heard you're the reason that we get to add an educational tag to our time together.
I'm the reason that 2MB Studio actually gets to call itself an educational channel. I'm the only reason. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, while I only care about answers that sound right, Will actually, of course, you are the reason why you know, we actually learn anything here because you care about the truth. Is that right?
Oh, I care very much about the truth. You know, we got three incredibly smart people here who will be giving you at some point some right answers, and I will always be giving you the right answer just to back them up. So no matter what, you know you will get some good information coming out of this. And I'm so excited to get in.
I'm so glad you're excited to be here, Will. As always, I'm excited to be here with you. Let's go ahead and dive into our first round, shall we? Contestants, good luck. The first question of the first round is, Ada Lovelace was mentored by Charles Babbage and is thought to be the world's first computer programmer. Lovelace and Babbage tried and failed to use applied math for what other purpose? Now, I'm going to come to each of you one at a time. You are going to give an answer. Folks, audience members, if it's your first time here, two of these contestants are going to be giving me absolutely made-up answers. They've never heard this question before in their lives, but one contestant will be giving us the correct answer, the right information. Maybe Tina. Tina seems confident. At the end, it's up to us to decide who we think sounds right. Here we go. Let's go to Whitney first. Whitney, what was the other reason, or what was the other purpose that Lovelace and Babbage were trying to use applied math for?
Right. They were trying to use it to grow plants. They were looking for the right genetic mixes to make plants grow the fastest using a certain kind of fern called a spider quint that was known for reproducing very quickly so that they could figure out the sequencing.
I see. Very interesting, Whitney. Chris, let's go to you next.
Sure. Well, Ada Lovelace is a hero figure for some, heroine figure for some. And like all strong role models, they are not without their flaws. And in Lovelace's case, it was actually a very serious gambling addiction. And so her and Babbage were one of the first people to try and use math to predict the outcomes of horse races.
The outcomes of horse races, so they could gamble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she actually lost something like 85 grand at the Epsom Derby, which I thought was fake when I was watching Peaky Blinders, but is apparently a very real and popular thing.
Wow, Chris, that I have to be honest, that's a shocking answer, which sometimes can sound less right, but you seem to have so much confidence saying it that, you know what, I might just be convinced. It's a great addition. You should do that after each of your answers. Very convincing. Tina, let's go to you.
Well, while I appreciate the answers from my fellow competitors, they're both wrong. So she's also one of my heroes as someone with a PhD in computer music. And unfortunately, as many of you know, many governments commissioned mathematicians to build machines for the purposes of waging war. So in the 1830s, when they were working on Babbage's difference engine, there were two machines, the difference engine and then the analytical engine, which they actually didn't finish. But initially what occurred was they wanted to calculate artillery trajectories. And so the British government had commissioned them to build this machine to do those calculations. But unfortunately, it was too large to actually fit on these vessels. And you would get things like bugs in the machinery, literal bugs. That's where the word bug comes from in computer programming. So unfortunately, wasn't really feasible. And it took much longer, into World War II before we start seeing a lot of computational energy go into war.
So Tina, so the way the purpose of the applied math was supposed to be to track the trajectory.
To calculate artillery trajectory. So basically you have to calculate what angle to have your the barrel of your various artillery cannonry. Yeah, I know. Okay. It's a bummer. But unfortunately, when you look at many of the technological advancements of the 19th and 20th century, they were funded by governments to wage war.
Yeah, well, Tina, that sounds pretty right, because I do know that war is behind a lot of our greatest advancements, just like you said, like unfortunately.
Like the internet.
Like the internet. Really? Well, yeah. Tina, that's a story for another time. Whitney, you look really you look skeptical of Tina's answer.
I'm just saying that Tina's using a lot of syllables, and I feel like that's cheap.
A lot of sort of longer words.
Yes. This isn't, that sounds polysyllabic. That sounds right.
Well, Whitney
is the person who just used the word polysyllabic. So,
yeah, Whitney, that was pretty convincing, the way you just threw that big word out there. This is difficult to decide. Whitney's answer, of course, is using applied math to grow plants. Chris's answer is using applied math to win horse races. And Tina's answer is for war. So it could be anybody's. All of these I know are uses for applied math. If you could apply math to anything, it could be one of these things. Math can apply to many things. Now, where I'm going to give the points, I love to ask the audience. I love to use the help of the audience, but I don't think I'm seeing much help in the audience here, other than other Dave Thomas says Tina's answer sounds the most right, but Chris's answer feels the most right. And I have to agree with that. It sounds like the audience is just as perplexed as I am. But in the end, I'm going to go ahead and follow my gut instinct with the answer that feels the most right, which for me this time, shockingly enough, is Chris's answer. I'm going to give 5 points to Chris, which maybe everyone will be surprised by, because Ada Lovelace never struck me as a gambler. But the Peaky Blinders detail, I've never seen the show, but I found it convincing.
Well, actually here, so this isn't This Feels Right. This is This Sounds Right. I just want to remind you of that.
Oh, snap.
Yes, that is the title of the show.
But also, you're correct on this one. Chris was right. It was a gambling problems. And you should really check out Peaky Blinders, because it's a fascinating show.
Will coming in with a great tidbit and a hot tip for me, misinformation. Wow. Will actually really had me going there. I thought That's surprising, really. Gambling on horse races.
Yeah, apparently they had to hawk a whole bunch of the family possessions because she got deep into it.
Wow. Yeah, I've never known this about Ada Lovelace. Let's read the next question. What is something that fish, birds, insects, and reptiles can all do that mammals cannot? Mammals cannot do this thing that bird, fish, insects, and reptiles can all do. Chris, let's go to you first.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. They can all breathe underwater for at least short periods of time. Not all species of birds, so I will give that caveat. But when you look at the diving birds, say pelican or the other one, so they dive into the water at pretty incredible speed, which means they go pretty far down to scoop up them fish. And so, they have just like micro gills to breathe underwater for a short period.
Micro gills.
Birds do.
Birds do, yeah. Some.
Some birds do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Chris, I'm intrigued. That is a potentially correct answer. Let's go to Tina.
So, not convinced by the microgills, unfortunately, Chris. I do have a degree in biological engineering, so I'm pretty sure I would have heard about that. But unfortunately, mammals can't produce green pigment. Have you ever seen a green mammal with green fur? No, because they're not capable of producing green pigment. Now, everybody's like, well, what about people with green eyes? Their eyes aren't actually green. It's something called the Tyndall effect, which deals with the different reflections of different wavelengths of light. And this is also, fun fact, why the sky is blue, because green and blue are similar wavelengths. But yeah, if you've ever wondered why you've never seen a green furry mammal before, they simply can't produce that color.
A green mammal. Tina, that sounds right as heck to me. But folks in the chat, if you can think of a green mammal that I'm forgetting, please, by all means, let me know. Let me know in the chat. Let's hear from Whitney.
Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. It's that they can all fertilize eggs. We know that there are a few mammals that can lay eggs, like the platypus and the echidna. But if those eggs are fertilized internally, those mammals still mate. It's only fish, birds, insects, and reptiles that fertilize their young outside of the body. So that is the main difference.
Fertilize the young outside the body. Let me tell you a story. When I was in 3rd grade, I took a field trip to a salmon farm. At the salmon farm, I watched the fertilization process. Mm-hmm. It was conducted by an expert, and it haunts me to this day. So I know the truth that fish can do this. It's burned into my memory.
But what about birds?
What about
bird eggs are not fertilized externally?
Birds. Are they not, Tina?
They are not.
No,
birds.
Wait.
It's internally for birds. They have an organ called a cloaca.
Cloaca. Yes. Yep. We've talked about
cloaca
before. Cloaca, of course, has come up on That Sounds Right. Mm-hmm. That is true. No one I said this a while ago, and no one has been able to name a green mammal. In fact, Red the Unready says, I trust the doctor so much that if I knew of a green mammal, I wouldn't publicly discuss it. And I assume he's talking about you, Tina. So you know what? That's enough for me. Let's go ahead and give this one to Tina. Mammals cannot produce green pigment. 5 points to Tina. Rachel Anneman says sloths are greenish.
They are not. It's from algae. It's from algae growing in their fur.
Algae growing in their fur. And plus, I already gave the points out. And if you've watched this show before, no matter what happens, I cannot take them back once I ring
this information will not take those points back, no matter what.
No matter what.
It's a good point, because you are correct on this one. It is Tina. We're starting off 2-0. 2-0.
So far, this is a strong showing. And Tina, I'm going to apologize that I'm getting so many answers right on the night that you are not in the audience to congratulate me on it.
I will congratulate you here now, Misinformation.
Oh.
I stand on
This
the
is
side
really-
of truth. Whoever gives that truth, they should be credited for that very virtuous act.
Wow,
It's a
thank you so
touching
much.
moment
I know.
in this show's history.
I'm getting emotional, and you know I don't care about the truth, but if there's one thing Misinformation cares about, it's people liking me. Let's go to the third question. The third question is Broadway theaters Broadway theater rows are labeled alphabetically, A through H and J through Z, but you never see a row I. Why? I'm so interested in this answer because I've spent much of my life in theaters and I actually have no idea. Why do you never see a row I? Let's go to Tina first. Tina, why don't we ever see a row I in the Broadway theaters?
So if you'll notice in the little chyron that's scrolling across the bottom, if you look at the number 1 and the letter I, they look very similar. So if you can imagine if someone comes in late with a ticket and the usher is sitting there trying to figure out where your seat is, they could easily confuse 1 and I if you're not familiar with the order in which the numbers and letters come in that particular theater. And so to avoid that type of confusion, they've decided to dispense with row I altogether.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. If I saw just a letter I might say, amazing, I'm in the front row.
Also lowercase l, you know,
That's
quite
true.
problematic. There's lots of
confusing
confusion
letter.
there.
Yeah, that's a confusing letter all around. Whitney, what's your answer?
It's very similar to Tina's. I'll piggyback off of this. They do look alike. But early on in the theater days, they actually did have a row I, and people would go up to the front row thinking that they were hot shit, that they were in the first row, and then they get real disappointed, and it actually caused a few fist fights.
Fist fights.
Fisticuffs.
I've said it before.
Fisticuffs over that front row seat to maim or whatever.
It's just not.
I want a front row seat of that.
You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Fisticuffs have no place in the theater. Whitney, that makes a lot of sense. And how embarrassing to then get moved all the way to row I.
Can you imagine engaging in fisticuffs and you just misread your ticket?
That's gotta. And row I is not even close to the front. What is that? The 12th row? The 27th row? It's far back.
Ethel Merman would just be there shaming you.
Yeah. And I'm sure she's not shy about it.
Get
Not
back.
Ethel. Chris, let's hear your answer.
Sure. Well, the other two answers were very practical for sure. But when I think of performance theater, practical is definitely not a word that comes to mind. And more whimsical. So the reason why they don't have eyes in the theater rows is because it's a superstition behind theater around the dissolution of ego. So, you know, it's a kind of a play on the old term of words, there is no I in team. Well, there is no I in theater.
You know what? Listen.
Clever.
This one's gonna get me cyberbullied, but I have to say, on this show, I always like to honor an answer that sounds right. I want to acknowledge that Tina and Whitney's answers make the most sense. They make far and above the most sense. And I see in the chat some mixed reviews about all the answers. But what I will say is that the theater is full of superstitions. I know this, and they're serious about it. And you know what? I just have to give Chris props and points for an answer that sounds right in the theater. A superstition about row I. I like it. I'm giving 5 points to Chris. It's the first round, and it's a strong showing. And I know that
I'm going to have to go take my Xanax misinformation. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me on screen.
Misinformation. We had a good run, but unfortunately, Chris was not correct on this one. Theater has many superstitions, and that is not one. It is Whitney's answer that people were starting fights because they thought they were supposed to be up front.
Fist fights in the theater. You hate to imagine it.
You do. But it's true. It's right.
It's right. Oh, Will's mad at me now. And look, sometimes that's how this show goes. But I do have to say that I was right about something, and that is that the theater is full of superstition. So
True.
Chris, a strong showing from you first round. You're 10 points up ahead of the other contestants as well. Chris, is there anything that you want to share with the audience?
I'll just follow on to Will and say, watch Peaky Blinders. It's a great show.
It's a great show. I'm psyched to watch it. I gotta give it a shot. I have no idea what it's about. I have to only imagine it's about what you see if you peek through blinders.
That sounds right.
It sure does. Amazing. Let's go ahead and move on to the second round. The second round, first question is: the first version of the Mini Cooper was sold without a very common component in cars of the time. What is it missing and why? What is the Mini Cooper missing? I have to know. Whitney, I'm going to give you another second to think. So I'm going to come to you in a second, Whitney. But first, I'm getting a comment in the chat that non-libertarian says, promote the sketch group we're in, Chris. So I'm going to move back to Chris for a second. I'm going to say thank you so much for promoting Peaky Blinders. I can't wait to watch. What's the name of your sketch group?
Sketch group is Night Job Sketch. We have a website and an Instagram where we publish stuff. The Instagram is at Night Job Sketch, and the website is nightjobsketch.com.
Nightjobsketch.com. Did you say on Twitter and Instagram?
We just Instagram, no Twitter.
Instagram, no Twitter.
Yeah.
Don't go on Twitter at all, but go to Instagram and go to the website of Chris's sketch group. Okay. Thank you, Chris, for that plug. Had to make sure we got it in. Whitney, tell me, what's the Mini Cooper missing?
So the Mini Cooper was missing something. It's a hot, snazzy car now, but it's very old. So that you remember, Mr. Bean drove one, but it was even older than that.
Wow.
So it was missing a horn. It had a bell ring instead of a horn.
A bell.
Yep.
Like this kind?
A bike bell. Like
Oh, that's incredible. I love that answer, Whitney.
Thank you.
That's a tough one to top. Chris, what's your answer? What was the Mini Cooper missing?
Well, I don't have a lot of goodwill after my last question, but the Mini Cooper originally was missing a radio, and in its place, it just had a large ashtray. The designer was a really heavy smoker, as you can imagine, back in the 50s and 60s, just cranking away at drawings all night. And he thought that the radio would be an extravagance, so why not just have an ashtray for convenience?
It's so much more practical for the everyday user.
Seriously.
Thank you, Chris. Tina, your answer, please.
So one of the first Mini Cooper models was actually one of the first cars to get rid of a catalytic converter. So catalytic converters are often coated with an element called palladium, which is extremely expensive. But it's one of those things that helps catalyze the process of combustion in the engine. And so they had a new type of technology that allowed them to have a much more fuel efficient car. And of course, this is back in the 60s. And of course, people were starting to become aware of the environment. So in the Mini Coopers, they were like, hey, let's start to have a much more environmentally friendly car and get rid of the catalytic converter. And it was cheaper. It was cheaper as well.
Tina, I'm going to be honest with you. That was a highly technical answer. And it could be true. I would have no way of knowing. And here's Brian Michael says these words from Tina are way too big. I'm not buying it.
It's simple solid state chemistry, Brian. Come on now. You know.
Simple
Wait, hang
solid
on. But the
chemistry.
exhaust is a gas, so that's not solid state.
That's gas.
Yeah, the
state.
catalytic, right, that comes out of combustion, though. The exhaust is the result of the combustion, which the catalytic converter actually helped catalyze. It helped make that process more efficient, right? But it also produced a lot of noxious fumes and byproducts. So they went with a much more efficient type of technology, which was also cheaper because, again, palladium is a very, very expensive element. In fact, people used to actually chop out catalytic converters from cars and sell them on the black market so that they could actually get money from the palladium. And this is still true. This is still true of like old Toyota Camrys. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. All right, listen. I'm not sure what palladium is. I'm not going to touch it. But
I wouldn't touch it. It might do some bad things to your skin. Might catalyze some reactions.
And I know I've heard the words catalytic converter before. I don't know if they're still in cars or if they're not anymore.
They're not still in cars.
Okay. According to Tina, they're not in cars anymore, and that might be true. My big pause. Here's my big pause. The audience is split, so here's what I'll say. Here are my big pause. Tina said that they took this out in the 60s because they were worried about the environment. And if there's one thing I know about the 60s is that they were not worried about the environment.
No, that's when Earth Day. We just had Earth Day. We just had Earth Day misinformation. Last Thursday was Earth Day.
In the 70s.
It was the early 70s. It was 1972, but people were moving towards
so which is
Earth
it,
Day,
Tina?
right? Late 60s is when we see the Mini Cooper, right? And so there was already an environmental movement that was starting, right? Which is why they finally declared Earth Day in the 70s.
Okay.
So,
listen, what it comes down to at the end of the day is I just love Whitney's answer too much. I have to give 5 points to Whitney. Bring for the bell. The bell.
I'm in the car.
That is too funny. That's gotta be it. Bring.
Well, actually, here, that's not it. That is, in fact, wrong. It was Chris's answer with the radio.
The radio! Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Chris, bring. We spent so much time discussing the validity of Tina's answer. We didn't even touch on the big ashtray.
Big steaming pile of ashes in it.
There's a big ash tray in that Mini Cooper. Let's go to question 2. Question 2 is, in 1877, Thomas Edison invented something that never achieved commercial success. What was it, and why didn't people buy it? Oh, capitalism, such a fickle mistress. Let's go to Chris first. Chris, what was this thing that Thomas Edison invented, and why didn't people buy it?
Well, the thing was actually something that we're all pretty familiar with, which is the kite with metal on it, the electric kite that Edison used to demonstrate electricity. You know, the old story. I'm
pretty sure that was Ben Franklin.
They worked together. They were in Bell Laboratories. They were based out of Boston. My high school teacher went there for college.
Bell Labs is not in Boston.
He thought that it would be fun if children could fly an electric kite, but there were really some spooky concerns around electricity back at those times because it was very new and untested. And so, yeah, total flop commercially.
Total flop commercially. Kids did not want to fly these metal kites.
The Benjamin Franklin Institute is in downtown Boston.
That sounds right. Chris, it could be true. Chris, it It's always tough to go first. Tina, let's go to you.
So before I tell you my answer, I just want to say that I'm currently writing a book on the history of voice technology and on the history of the invention of things like, say, the electric burglar alarm and electrification in households. So preface.
Okay.
But in fact, one of Edison's most famous failed inventions is actually the phonograph doll. So what this was, it was like a talking doll. We're all familiar with talking dolls now. So he had the idea, what if we made a doll for children to play with? But we put tiny little phonographs in them with little wax cylinders to play things like nursery rhymes and, you know, fun little jingles and songs like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. But unfortunately, what happened was, so first, you know, wax cylinders at the time were not very robust in terms of recording technology, right? And so they couldn't handle a child's rough play. They would often get warped or cracked. And then also, because of the resistance that the wax posed to actually making recordings, you literally had to yell. This is why lots of radio announcers had that very like noise or voice back in, you know, the late 1800s and early 20s, because you literally had to yell for anything to be recorded. And so what happened is they hired a bunch of women to yell nursery rhymes into wax cylinders, and the recording was just a screaming woman. Yeah, so they're screaming like, twinkle, twinkle, little star. And it was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying for children and their parents alike. So it just never took off. And you can actually listen to these recordings online. They rescued them from like old wax cylinders that were left over, and just go on Wikipedia.
What is a wax cylinder, Tina?
So
like a cylinder of wax?
Yes, literally. So think of a candle, right? Think of like a Yankee candle. So
Yeah,
before they had
Yankee.
LPs, they would actually, instead of like, they didn't have lacquer yet, so they actually would inscribe the waveform onto wax. And that was what the first recording technology was made out of, was actually wax. I kid you not. I kid you not. I have a research fellowship at Harvard to study this right now. So,
Tina,
you know, literally writing a book and an opera about it.
Tina with the credentials. Let's
just saying.
Whack. So your answer is dolls that scream. Is what?
Yes, literally dolls that scream.
Okay, Whitney, what's your answer?
All right, Tina, here's another one for you to study. In the late 1800s, we all know that seances came into fashion with like the Fox sisters. And part of that was the creation or use or spreading of the Ouija board. This creation was the Ouija phone. And it allowed people, it was a bit of a novelty, a bit of a prank invention, that it allowed for voice distortion, so that when people were trying to have these seances, look into the future, connect with the spirits, that a distorted voice would come through that everyone
Where
could
did the
hear.
voice come from in the phone?
It was like a little like phonograph, but it was...
Who recorded it?
Who
recorded it?
It wasn't a recording. It was just for distortion purposes. So it was somebody would have to go hide and use the tiny phonograph and scare their friends.
So what's interesting about that answer is that a phonograph is actually something that reproduces recorded media via physical vibrations. This is how a record works. So you wouldn't use a phonograph for that type of application. I'm sorry to say, Whitney, but nice
Sorry,
try.
I used the wrong word.
I don't know what a phonograph is.
If you think about the big like bell-shaped thing that
Tina, I was
old
not
record
asking.
player.
I
Just
need
saying,
to understand these answers. The way that I understand it is Chris's answer is metal kite.
Metal kite.
Tina's answer is talking doll. Whitney's answer is talking Ouija board. And my answer is, when did Ouija boards come into existence? Whose invention was the board at all? Because that Thomas Edison happened a long time ago, I thought.
Yeah. No, that kind of seance business started around like the Civil War times, U.S. Civil War. But I think the Ouija board had been sort of a pagan I'm probably not going to use the right word because nobody else ever used it either. Or some type of like religious practice in other areas.
So this is very interesting to me because it's not Chris, but Tina's answer is something that Tina would know a lot about, and Whitney's answer is, frankly, I think something that Whitney would know a lot about. So it really could go either way. I'm gonna, on this one, again, no help from the chat tonight. And look, I love having you all here. Hope you're having a good time. You're not really helping tonight, but that's okay. I'll do it all myself. The hosting, the deciding, everything. But my deciding this time will go to Tina for all the technical words. I think that seems fair. A lot of technical words from Tina. Chris, you were so close.
You weren't convinced by me confusing 3 inventors?
3 inventors. Chris.
All in once.
Yeah.
Well, you are right on that misinformation.
I was right again?
You were right. Yeah, it was Tina.
Oh.
So,
and if you go to
obviously.
Wikipedia, you can actually hear these. It's terrifying.
Wow.
Do we have like 30 seconds to show a picture of it and then play the sound?
Yeah. Will, let's do it.
All right, let's make that happen.
Let's make that happen. Let's see what this thing looks like. Let's hear what it sounds like. I'm sure I'm going to be deeply disturbed by.
No.
The nudity is really what jumps out at you at first.
Yep, so that's what it looks like.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get the sound to work for you guys. Then this is again from Wikipedia.
Okay.
No.
This is what I get paid to do all day.
Wow, that is
these recordings.
That is horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
That's worse than the salmon farm. All right. Let's move on if we can. Let's go to the third question in round 2. Why? Oh, that doll. Something.
Its
all right.
knees really bothered me. Its knees were just awful.
Yeah. Why was the sound in the chest?
That's where
it resonates from. Well, it's probably the thickest part of the construction of the doll, so they could actually fit the little
and probably the most hollow.
Yeah. I just
So
thought
in
maybe
terms of
out the back might be.
Well, that's even worse.
Voice is coming from behind it. Yeah.
The doll.
That's true. All right, let's go to the third question for real now. Why was actor Buddy Ebsen removed from the role of the Tin Man during the filming of The Wizard of Oz? Buddy Ebsen got out of there, not in the role anymore of the Tin Man. Why is that? This is going first to Tina.
So, as you know, they had to slather him with metallic paint to get him shiny, and he actually developed like acute lead poisoning from the paint. And so he became too sick to actually be able to continue the role, so they had to switch him out.
Sick time.
For
lead poisoning.
And of course, they had no paid sick leave at that point. So
I see. Whitney, what is your answer?
Right? Yeah, he was slathered in makeup. Makeup made of pure aluminum dust, which he had a horrible allergic reaction to, and had to be placed on a ventilator for essentially the remainder of the filming. So that is when they brought in Jack Haley Jr.
Huh.
Jack Haley Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the
apparently did not have that allergy and just toughed out that pure aluminum dust.
Pure aluminum dust. You'd think the inhalant on that would be.
Oh, I'm sure he suffered from it in other ways.
Right, long-term effects. Troubling. 2 troubling answers. Chris, what's your answer?
Well, buckle up because it does not get better. So I am familiar with this because I spent 2 summers working in a radioactive cleanup in a landfill. in the middle of Massachusetts. And so radioactive materials were commonly used in a lot of things back in the day, especially for things like paints and like the old watch dial faces that used to glow in the dark. That was because there were radioactive materials inside of those paints. So talking about film, the first version of the makeup for the Tin Man, cameras and motion picture technology wasn't great back then. So it was difficult to get that paint to show up on camera without having like a very flat look. And so at first they had tried mixing in some of that radioactive material into that paint to get it to show up better on camera, to very, very poor side effects for poor old Tin Man.
Oh, Chris, I think that might be true.
It is.
Okay, this might be, okay. Wait, I think Chris might be right. When you started out using the word radioactive, I was like, no. That radioactive means green and glows with sort of a symbol on the front of the can. But, now I'm rethinking about it. And I'm like, I think I've heard that before, that they use the radioactive to make the like colors pop or something. Yeah. The colors so here's what I'm thinking. I know the Tin Man got sick. I've heard this before. I know that they put something poison on him. Now, what that was, I don't really remember. Lead seems plausible because I know that children used to chew on windowsills and get sick.
Lead paint.
Whitney's answer also makes sense because I think I heard somewhere that it was like the dust of something that made him sparkle. If you watch the movie, it's not just color; it's the sparkle of the guy.
Very shiny.
And that sparkle probably, for those of you who don't know, sparkles come from stuff being sort of like in pieces, like Whitney talked about with dust. Now, Chris's answer also sounds familiar. That sounded the least right to me, but now I'm thinking I've heard that before about the radioactive. Chat, I really need your help. It may sound right, but Whitney actually is right. Okay, so Whitney, you're actually getting support in the chat, and that, you know what, that's enough for me because I was really, really split on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and give Whitney points. Whitney points for this. Oh, fun fact, Buddy Ebsen is still alive, other Dave Thomas says. So apparently that allergic reaction, that would also support Whitney's answer, that the allergic reaction was, temporary, unlike
didn't kill him, just
like
tried
radioactive,
to.
Where, that's long-term. How am I doing, Will?
You're doing great on this one. You are correct. Whitney was right with the aluminum paint. Aluminum dust.
Coming back strong. Partying with my big paws. Oh, wow. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Other Dave Thomas says he died. He did die, but in 2003. So hopefully
he was old AF.
He was old. He lived a good long life. Wow. That was, I have to say, 3 really impressive answers because all 3 of those sounded like they could have been right, and I would not have been surprised. It's all tied up at the end of round 2. We love when that happens. A tied game. Everybody, such a strong showing. Tina, is there anything that you would like to share with the audience before we move on to round 3?
QAW on this channel, Thursdays, 8 p.m. I play a cannibal mermaid named the Siren. This week I'm going up against Payne Austin. We're going to have a fabulous musical mashup for you. Other than that, keep an eye out for my book, which is going to be coming out on the history of voice technology with creepy dolls and doll in like 2 years probably. So that's a longer term one, but
amazing. A long-term plug. We love it. If you want to see those creepy dolls again, then make sure to spy Tina's book and catch QAW right here on 2MB Studios. Round 3. Question 1, the final non-lightning round. Question 1 is, in the TV series King of the Hill, Hank Hill suffers from a genetic disorder. What is it called and what does it cause? Okay, I've never seen King of the Hill. Like Peaky Blinders, I assume they're similar shows. But Hank Hill suffers from a genetic disorder. What is it called? What does it cause? Whitney, let's go to you.
Yes, this is a rare condition called phalangodermia, and it creates a finger sack on the side of the hand. This would be where another functional finger would go, but it's devoid of bone or muscle. So it's just, as I said, a finger sack.
A finger sack. And it's called phalangodermia?
Indeed.
That makes sense, Whitney, because phalange, I think, it means finger, and derm means skin. If you have some extra
Add them
finger
together,
skin,
finger sack.
make a finger sack. And you know what, Whitney? I'm not saying that this is on King of the Hill because I don't know about King of the Hill, but I do know that that can happen to people because I know someone with a finger sack. Thank you, Whitney. That could be true of Hank Hill. Let's go to Chris.
In my thoughts and prayers. I'm so sorry, Kayleigh.
Thank you, Whitney. I think he's fine. Chris, what's your answer?
Yeah, so middle of the series, he was diagnosed with a condition called diminished gluteal syndrome. Basically, he's got a tiny old butt, and he's got no cushion on his rumpus, and it compresses his spine and gives him back problems.
It gives him. Wait. Okay. So Chris, what's it called again?
It's called diminished gluteal syndrome.
Diminished gluteal syndrome.
Yeah,
okay, that makes sense because diminish means go down, and gluteal means butt. Like butt related.
Maybe it might be gluteal and not gluteal, but those are the right combination of letters that I'm saying.
Oh my god. Okay, and that means his butt's going away, so he will get back problems because he can't like sit properly.
Yeah, it's like you ever sit on a bike for a long time, like go for a bike ride, and then your like sit bones hurt. It's like that, but he's doing it all the time. That's his whole life.
Wow.
Your rumpus needs cushion.
It do.
It's meant to. Yeah. It's meant to have cushion. That's our body positivity note tonight. Tina, what's your answer? Is it a finger sack? Is it no butt? Or is it Tina's answer?
It is not. I love both of these answers, and I know other Dave Thomas in the chat is probably very excited to have an ass-related answer. But in fact, it's actually something called deuteronomy anomaly, which is more commonly known as red-green color blindness. Right. Huh. And what you'll know about Hank Hill is that he pretty much only wears white shirts and jeans. Like you only ever see him in white shirts. And this is so that he doesn't have to worry about mismatching his clothes. So he just wears white shirts all the time.
Okay. Tina, you know what? Color blindness.
Very common genetic disorder. Yeah.
A very common genetic disorder. And that checks out. I again, I've never seen the show, so all these sort of check out. Now here, I like all these answers. Whitney's answer, I have to say, is probably the one making me the most skeptical, just because I know that people don't even like drawing all the fingers on cartoons, and I know the show's a cartoon. Because people have been talking about it in the chat. And in cartoons, you usually see people with like just. Like, don't they usually just have most of a hand, like on cartoons because people?
I forgot to mention that he was missing a finger. So he had a missing finger due to an accident, but also a finger sack to even it out.
Wow, that's a complicated storyline right there.
That could be true, Whitney. Chris is getting so, Chris, the small ass syndrome sounded the most far-fetched to me, but you're getting so much support in the chat that I'm gonna have to go with go with Chris here. The chat hasn't helped me out basically all night.
It's because the chat right here.
The chat has not been helping tonight. They've mostly just been teasing you fine people. But tonight, but this answer, I got a lot of support for Chris. So I'm going to go with the chat.
Will actually here, and that is a good choice. Chris is correct on that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent work, Chris. Remembering the name of diminished gluteal syndrome.
Gluteal. Well, we're all learning today.
Let's go to question 2. Question 2 is, what kind of disaster can be helped by dog fur and human hair? What kind of what kind of disaster can be helped by dog fur and human hair? This kind of disaster can only be solved by one thing, and it's dog fur and human hair. Chris, let's go to you.
Shipwrecked. Shipwrecking. The question should be a little more specific because it's only for the long-haired breeds of dogs, and also for like very short-haired males. Are probably not going to help you out here. But yeah, if you get shipwrecked with like a husky, and if you sit around for like a real long time on that island, you got yourself a good head of hair too. You can start weaving yourself out a sail, and you can tie that sail up to a craft that you've been building while you've been waiting for your hair to grow out, and then you can sail yourself home to freedom.
Now, this is the kind of disaster that can be helped by dog fur and human hair. A shipwrecking to weave yourself a sail. Thank you, Chris. Not a lot of support coming in on the chat on that one, but let's give the other two a chance. Tina, what's your answer?
So I'm glad that Whitney brought up seances earlier because in fact, if you have a haunting, there are certain spells that you can cast using dog fur and human hair to actually rid yourself of the offending spirit. So I'm gonna go with hauntings and other types of paranormal activity. Yeah, which could be quite disastrous, quite frankly.
So that's the kind of organic material that you could use to really.
Yeah, you have to, you know how people used to burn sage and things like that.
Right.
Still do actually. That's still a widespread practice. But you can also use certain types of dog fur and human hair, particularly the Portuguese water dog. Has that dog's hair is rumored to have special magical properties.
I never knew that about Portuguese water dogs. I've seen a picture though, and they are cute.
They are
Whitney,
cute.
What's your answer?
For any of us that are into hair treatments, we know that hair of the humans and of the dogs absorb oil. So in 2010, during the BP oil spill, a nonprofit called Matter of Trust started collecting hair from dog groomers and hair salons to create giant mats of dog and human hair to soak up oil from the BP oil spill.
I bet if you had dry hair, it might even be even more helpful.
Even better. They were like, if you've been taking bad care of your hair, give it us. And we're going to use it.
If you've been using 2-in-1 shampoo, send it down.
Where do they then put these mats after they've used them to absorb the hair? Where do they put them after that?
The hair?
Probably nowhere great.
Probably, I'll be honest, it probably burned.
It was a disaster. And if you remember 2010, they came up with cockamamie schemes in order to clean that shit up.
Similar to Chris's shipwrecked answer. Both of them involve the ocean.
Water and dogs.
Let's go with Whitney. Yeah. Let's go with Whitney on that. Let's move it right along. That sounds right. Although it could be anybody.
Could be anybody, but Whitney is correct on that one. Way to go.
Will, you must be having a great night. I am rocking this.
Oh, this is an amazing night for
Last question, round 3. William Philly, who is a professor of biological engineering at MIT, is most famous for what invention? And here's what we're gonna do. We gotta end this show. So let's all you get 5 words to tell me what the invention is or does. 5 words alone. Let's go to Tina first. Here we go.
Apple Jacks. He studied food science.
Great. Food science is hyphenated. That's going to check out. He invented Apple Jacks, a great cereal treat. Whitney, what's your answer?
Hair transplants. Enough said.
Oh, a hair transplant. That is a very famous invention. Chris May, let's go to you.
Phillies, dillies, quick pickles, please.
Phillies, dillies, quick pickles, please.
Sounds like one of the nursery rhymes the doll said.
Quick pickles. Any of these could be true. The one that sounds the most like an invention to me is hair transplant. So I'm going to go with Whitney once again in round 3. 5 more points to Whitney for hair transplants. Sounds the most invention-y, so that's enough for me.
Well, actually, here that is incorrect. It was Tina Apple Jacks.
He invented Apple Jacks, the cereal.
He was my professor the first day of class. He rolls up and is like, I know the question that you all want to ask. And yes, I invented Apple Jacks. And then just started the lecture.
That's incredible. Wow, that is never what I had expected. That's very interesting. Tina, Whitney, that's going to put you in the lead with 20 points. We're going into the bonus lightning round. We have time for just a few questions here. Bonus lightning round for bonus points to declare the winner of tonight. The bonus points all come from the audience. So if you're in the audience, put a name in the chat for someone you want to give bonus points to. I don't give any points during the bonus round. It's all you, baby. Let's go. Question 1. Here we go. This is a lightning round, so it moves quick. Tina, where is this?
This is an intergalactic space center on the planet Glorb.
Chris, where is this?
That is Shinjuku Crossing, Tokyo.
Whitney, where is this?
New York in the movie The Avengers.
Will, where is this actually?
Chris nailed it. Yeah.
Wow, Chris, excellent work. Let's go to the next one. What do we got out here? What is this, Tina?
This is cupping coffee.
Chris, what is this?
That is the fermentation cycle of hair dye.
Whitney, what is this?
The fermentation cycle of coffee.
Ooh.
Well, what is this actually?
Ooh. It's a roux.
It's a roux, people. Roux. It's a roux.
Duh.
Next question. Come on. Get your roux in order.
There we go.
Okay, Tina, who is this?
This is Ben Franklin Edison Tomasini of Chris May's answer from earlier.
Of Chris May's answers and fantasies. Chris, who is this?
That is Arthur fucking Shelby.
Wow. Whitney, who is this?
Nikola Tesla mourning the passing of his pigeon.
Ooh.
Passing of his pigeon. Oh no, Will, who is this actually?
Arthur fucking Shelby.
Wow, Chris. Oh my gosh. That is going to do it. That is going to do it for the bonus lightning round. Let's finish this up. I am looking in the chat and something amazing has happened. An upset.
Destroyed.
An upset. Chris, you have won by 1 bonus point. 1 bonus point from the chat, Chris.
What?
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chris, that means as a previous winner of this show, you now have your master's degree from 2MB University. The highest degree we have given out so far is going to you, Chris. And that is going to finish up our night. Audience, thank you for joining us. Chris, Tina, Whitney, thank you for being here. Will, thank you as always for everything you do for our show. We will see you all next week. Stay tuned for Poof starting right now on 2MB. Yeah!